Hi everybody, today we are August 28, 2025, and as promised I will give you a regular update on how I'm trying to build a startup from scratch in 8 weeks. And so we are in week 1, so really at the beginning. And what I always learn my students is that in the first week you should focus on identifying a relevant problem. So this week I'm not yet thinking about solutions, I'm actually thinking about problems. And what I want to do in this video is to give you an update about what I already did. So I mainly focused on brainstorming about potential problems that I could solve. And I will show you briefly what I exactly did. Then, of course, I will kind of disclose which problems I identified, and it would be great to get your feedback about which problems you think are most interesting. And then I will also briefly reflect on the activities that I did and talk about what will be the next steps. So let's start.
Founding out loud.
Yes, so what I have done in the past days is actually trying to come up with a pain point. And to do so, I actually used a specific tool that I designed myself called the Point Brainstormer. And this is a GPT that I designed myself. And this GPT actually can help students, but also me, in thinking about what could be interesting problems that you can solve. And so how is it designed? I simply instructed it to help individuals with brainstorming about pain points, and I also gave it a kind of deep research report with best practices on how to do brainstorming. So I gave it quite some upfront knowledge so that it's really tailored to help people with brainstorming. And so in the past days, I simply talked with this particular GPT about my experiences in the past week and how that can actually trigger ideas for a pain point that I could solve. And actually, the past week I was in a very specific setting, and that's quite important to understand. So last week I was in Austria, in a village called Albach, where I was participating in the European Forum Albach. And that's a yearly forum, quite a prestigious thing organized, where actually from all over the world, young, ambitious people are brought together to jointly engage in seminars about, in this case, thinking about the future of Europe. And I was invited to do a seminar about AI and entrepreneurship. So in 5 days, every day, I taught these students for 3 hours. But they got a lot of additional seminars in the evening. There were parties, dinners, all that kind of stuff. So that was where I was spending my time in the past week. So of course, the pain points that I've identified are quite related to this setting, because I simply talked with my GPT about what I experienced being present in this very specific setting. So let me briefly show you or reveal kind of the 3 main pain points that I have identified by talking with my brainstormer about what I have experienced in the past week. And so the first pain point that I have identified is that actually this kind of conferences are not tailored towards introverts. And I'm an introvert, so I can kind of justify that. But these kind of conferences, and I think it's more in general, like the Albach Forum, it's packed with seminars where a huge amount of people are sitting together. In between, you have lunches with a lot of people. In the evening, there are dinners with a lot of people. And to be honest, after one day, I, as an introvert, already feel exhausted. Now, I had the advantage that as a seminar leader, I didn't have to participate in all the things, but I can easily imagine that some of these young people that have a more introvert nurture were totally exhausted after one day, which also means that then the added value of the next days might be quite limited. So for me, I think this is really an important pain point that we see in general, that conferences still ignore the needs of introverts. And that's really a pain point that I experienced myself. A second pain point is that what I experienced in that week is that young people are often hesitant to search for real feedback. And so I was working together with very ambitious, very smart young people, but what you noticed was that they felt quite uncomfortable in asking for feedback. And also, if you gave them sometimes a bit harsh feedback, because they needed to do something in my seminar that was quite unusual for them, you see that they sometimes struggled with processing that feedback. So here I saw a second pain point that could be interesting to address. And finally, during lunches, I was also talking with other instructors that also did seminars. And there again, I was really shocked how people working in corporate environments today are rather demotivated. And it seems that a core source of demotivation is really their limited ability to take entrepreneurial action. Yeah? So they really feel constrained by the corporate setting in which they are working. They constantly complain that they cannot take initiative. And so that, for me, is also kind of a core pain point where we need solutions. So by brainstorming with my GPT, I talked about my experiences at the forum. These were kind of the 3 pain points that emerged. And now I will have to choose one of them. But of course, it would be great to also get your feedback. So if you would be in my shoes, which pain point would you select? And so please mention in the comments which pain point you would select and why. That would be very helpful for me. Then finally, some brief reflections on using a ChatGPT to do this brainstorming. Yeah, so I created this ChatGPT thing, and I talked with it quite some time, more than 1 hour, I think more like 2 hours, to talk about my experiences and pain points. And on the one hand, I think that was very useful, but I also, to be honest, saw some limitations. And let me briefly talk about that. So first of all, you really need to use the voice mode here. Yeah, so if you do it with typing, it's simply not realistic. It feels very artificial. But if you use the voice mode, so that you're really engaging in a conversation with your GPT, it actually works, in my opinion, quite well. However, one extremely annoying thing is that also this GPT continuously try to please you. So I'd say, oh yeah, this is a great idea. Absolutely, I agree with you. But the problem is that in brainstorming, sometimes you also want to be questioned. You want to get a different perspective. And even though I really try to train this GPT to be a good brainstormer, to be a good coach, you feel that it's really pushed towards pleasing the person that is using the GPT, and that's sometimes quite annoying. And to some extent, I think also limits the functionality of the GPT. So that's something you need to realize. And I was also a bit surprised that actually I really needed to push it sometimes to go deeper and explore further. So sometimes it was quite quickly satisfied with the pain point that we identified. So, and then it was really saying like, oh yeah, I think we have a good pain point we are ready for today. And whereas I had a feeling, no, we need to have a better understanding of it. And then when I pushed it, it of course went further, but I was a bit surprised that although it promised to be kind of a brainstormer that would work with me for 15, 30 minutes, often after 5 minutes it would say, oh yes, we are already having a good pain point, let's stop here. So there I think you really need to push it if you really want to use it. So these were kind of 3 learnings from my experience by working with this brainstormer, but in the end I'm quite happy with the 3 pain points that I identified. I think these are relevant pain points. I also feel enthusiastic to work on one of them, but of course I now would like to get your feedback. So please give me your feedback, and then the next step for me will actually be to do some customer interviews where I will want to even better understand when people experience these pain points, how they already try to solve them, what is the hardest part of the pain points. So that would be the next step for me. And that again, I will also share here on YouTube. So thanks for your attention. Please give me your feedback. That would be very valuable. And then we will see each other for the next update. Thank you. Bye.